Hi folks, it's Mike Murphy with a beginner's guide on how to get started using Remotion. I'm going to walk you through step by step on how to set up a Remotion video project, and for the demo we're going to do a very simple logo animation. What is Remotion? Well, if you can see here on your website, Remotion allows you to make videos programmatically. And if you don't know what that means, in simplest terms, Remotion allows you to build real videos, real animations with code. Remotion runs locally on your computer. And we are going to be using Visual Studio Code, or VS Code, to run Remotion. You write what are called compositions, and then you render those to video. And Remotion comes with its own video preview editor called Remotion Studio. And this editor launches right in a browser. It is all done with code. And the way that you make your videos and your animations in Remotion, you simply launch your favorite AI agent. We are going to be using Claude Code, but it works with just about any AI agent like Codex, Gemini, etc. You describe the video or animation that you want in plain English, or your language of choice. Claude Code builds the composition, and then you go to the Remotion Studio where you can preview and go back and forth until you get the video just right. The prerequisites are the requirements to follow along in today's tutorial. Node.js must be installed on your computer, and to check and see that you have it installed on your computer, open up the Mac OS terminal or the command line. Just type out node, N-O-D-E, space, -- version, tap return, and if it returns a version number, then Node is installed. If it doesn't, if it says something like command not found, open a web browser, go to nodejs.org. Click Get Node.js. Choose your operating system and just download and install, and then have Claude Code installed and running. So let's get started and build your first Remotion video project. Remotion is a code base, so the first thing I'm going to do is create a project folder. Now I'm just going to do it on my desktop for simplicity for this tutorial, but put it wherever you keep all of your AI builds or any of your coding projects. So on my desktop, I'll right click, new folder. I'm just going to call this Mike Remotion. Now we need to grab the code that is going to scaffold or build the code base for Remotion. So to do that, you're going to open up a web browser and go to remotion.dev. Right in the middle there, you're going to see this MPX create video. You just click on that and it's going to copy it to your clipboard. Now I'm going to open up my project folder in Visual Studio Code or VS Code. So I'm just going to drag it right onto the VS Code application. And there's Mike Remotion. That's the project folder, but it's currently empty. And now we need to open up the terminal so we can paste that Remotion command. So in VS Code, you can open the terminal from the top menu by clicking Terminal, New Terminal. But the way that I typically do it, I go down to the bottom where that little triangle is. That's actually the problem icon right there. But I just come over here and click on Terminal. And you want to make sure or just confirm that you see the name of your project folder, which it should automatically open if that's the folder that you open in VS Code. And now I'm going to paste in that MPX command that we got from the Remotion website. I'll tap return. Use the up and down arrows to go up and down the templates. And remember, I'm just going to start with blank. Tap the spacebar to select. Add Tailwind CSS, yes. So yes is selected. I'll tap return. Add agent skills, yes. The Remotion best practices is selected by default, so that's the one I'm going to choose. Remember, down arrow if you want to move up and down. Spacebar, it selects it. Now I'll tap return. Same as last time, I'll click yes. Installation scope for the project, yes. Installation method, symlink, yes. Proceed with installation, yes. Notice up here, it's already building the code base. I'll tap return. So the installation of Remotion is done. But here is a big gotcha moment, or at least it's gotten me a few times. Notice right here, get started by running. Before npm run dev, you need to run npm space lowercase I, and the lowercase I just stands for install. That is going to install everything that's required or the dependencies that are found in the package.json. npm space lowercase I for install, tap return. Now I'm not going to go over the entire Remotion code base, but I'm just going to point out some of the big ones. We already talked about the package.json file. This is what stores all of the dependencies, or what Remotion needs in order to run that template. The public folder. This is where you drop assets like logos that you want to animate, and the SRC is where the animation code lives. This is where Claude Code works inside of, the SRC folder. And now it's time for the fun part where we launch the Remotion Studio. This is a video editor that the terminal spins up locally in the browser. So it looks just like a video editor in the browser, but it's actually on localhost, so it's only on your computer. And if you ever need to reopen the studio, you can always run the npm run dev, or you can just type in localhost 3000 in the browser, tap return, and that's going to open up the Remotion Studio. It is the terminal that is running the local server. And then the browser opens up to that localhost 3000. And the browser tab is the editor. That is the Remotion Studio where you work. And even if you were to close down the browser, that local server is still running in the terminal. The only way that you stop it is by pressing Control-C. So here we go. npm space run space dev. Tap return. Browser should open. Localhost 3000 at the top. That is the Remotion Studio. And because this was a blank project, I apologize, it's kind of boring. But you see here my comp. As you build different comps in your Remotion project, they're all going to be here. And next to compositions, or the cool way to say it, comp, you will see an assets tab. If I click on that, you will see to add assets, you place a file in the public folder. So remember when I told you that folder called public is where you drop logos? You'll find that if we go back to VS Code, there is the public folder where you're going to drop images and logos that you want to animate. There's the SRC folder where Claude Code hangs out, and then we've already talked about the package.json, which includes all of the dependencies for the project. If you ever lose the Remotion Studio, all you have to do in the terminal, npm space run space dev. If you ever close the browser, remember the terminal runs the local server. So the terminal is still running, saying to rerun. All you have to do in the browser is just enter in the local host address. So I can open up Chrome, type in localhost 3000, tap return, and now the Remotion Studio is back in the browser tab. Enough of the setup. Let's animate something in Remotion. Remember, if you want to animate something like your logo or any PNG or graphic, you're going to dump them in the public folder. I'm just going to open up Finder. I have a folder on my desktop called Logos, where I have two logos. I have my Mike Murphy logo, and I've got the Murphbot character, and I'm going to animate Murphbot because, how cool is he? So I'm just going to take these and drag them right in the public folder. And if you're new to VS Code or just the entire coding environment is not something that you're that comfortable with, everything that you see here in VS Code, this is exactly the same as it is in your project folder. So if I double click on Mike Murphy Remotion, everything is there. There is that public folder. So if you're more comfortable dragging things in using the Finder on your desktop, whatever, you can do so, and it's going to end up back in VS Code. And now I'm going to launch Claude Code. But just before I do, this is for another tutorial, but if you look at the top of the Remotion project, these are all AI agent skills. So you probably recognize there's Claude, Klein, Codex, Cursor, Gemini, and these are the skills. So once you give the agents like Codex and Claude the Remotion skill, well then Claude is going to look up the best practices and know how to animate in Remotion. To launch Claude Code, You don't want to quit the terminal because that's going to quit the local server where Remotion Studio is running. So you need to either open up a new terminal in VS Code, or if you have the Claude extension, well, you can just open that. To launch a new terminal window, you can go back to the terminal menu at the top and choose New Terminal. But what I typically do is go to the far right and I just click that little plus. And now you can toggle back. The node is where Remotion Studio is running the local server, and the ZSH, that is a new terminal window. It is in the Mic Remotion folder, the same as the Remotion project. And now I'm going to launch Claude Code by just typing out Claude. I'm going to paste in a super simple prompt. I'm just going to tell Claude, animate MurphBot in Remotion, make it wave and bounce like it's saying hello. That's it. Tap return. Now Claude is reading the Remotion best practices skill, successfully loaded the skill, so it knows exactly what to do. Remember, Claude lives in the SRC folder. I can see the new file was created called murphbot.tsx. So down here, the permissions ask me, do you want to create murphbot.tx? And as soon as I say yes, you will see the file will get created in the SRC folder. So I'm just going to click. Sure enough, murphbot.tx. This is the code for the animation. I'll tap yes again. This goes to the permissions. Claude is done and wrote up a full description. And the first thing you'll notice is that Claude actually rendered out an MP4 file. So there's actually a video been created. But we're going to preview it because that's the fun part. Claude explains what all of the different files are in the SRC. It goes through all of the motion, pop in, bounce, wave, secondary motion. And notice at the bottom it says to preview with npm run deb, which we already know launches the Remotion Studio. Now, you don't run the npm run deb in the Claude prompt box. You do that in the terminal. So if I go back to Node, well, our local server is already running. So let's go preview it in the browser. So I'm going to open up Chrome, my comp, and when I select MurphBot Wave, I'll click the play button, and we have an animation. Now it's a navy blue background, so it's kind of hard to see. But MurphBot is dancing and waving, which is kind of fun. And look at the shadow below. Very cool. Now to make edits, I'm going to go back to VS Code and tell Claude Code what changes I want to make. So go back to Claude Code. So we're in the terminal where Remotion is running. So I'm going to come over here and click on the terminal where Claude Code is running. To use my cream background, I gave it a hex color, tap return. And if you go back to the browser, all the changes happen in real time. We've got the light background. If I press the play button or tap the spacebar, now MurphBot is dancing, waving. We've got the shadow, we've got a little squash, and it appears to be a seamless loop. Pretty cool. And when you want to render out a video from the Remotion Studio, you can just come down here and click on the render button. And you'll see up here in the inspector, you can change some of the dimensions if you want to change it to a different dimension before you render. But I'll just click the render button. So let's export as an animated GIF. I'll click here, choose GIF. Then I'm going to render the video. And that's going to put it in your project folder. And the last thing I just want to point out, remember, this is all done in code. So if I go back to VS Code, when you see something like a hex color, let's just make it so you can see it. If I change the hex color, notice what happens. This is the background color. So when I save this, Command S, you're going to see the background updates instantly. How cool is that? I'll undo the background color, Command Z. You see the swatch goes back to that cream color. Command S, and instantly it updates in the Remotion Studio. And when you render from the Remotion Studio, or when Claude Code renders something from the Remotion project, where you're going to find those outputted videos in the out folder. So there's that animated GIF that we did. And if I go to the desktop, open up the project folder, it's the exact same thing. There's the out folder with the two outputs. So this is the video. And this is the animated GIF, which I can just drag right into a browser. And now MurphBot is dancing in Chrome. And when you're done for the day and you want to shut down Remotion Studio, you go back to VS Code. In the terminal, you can see the local server is still running. To quit, you're going to press the Control key and just tap the letter C. That stops the local server. Notice it says over here in the browser, the Studio server has disconnected. npm space run space dev, something you want to commit to memory, tap return, and that fires up the local server again. Murphbot is back in business. The quick recap: to get started using Remotion, create a project folder somewhere on your computer, open it up in VS Code. Go to the remotion.dev website, copy the code, then open up the terminal in VS Code, paste it in, or just type in that npx create-video at latest. Tap return, let the Remotion project scaffolder build out. Now don't miss the next step, that's the gotcha. You're going to type in npm space I stands for install. That's installing the dependencies necessary, and then it's time to launch the Remotion Studio, which you do by running npm space run dev, and then you launch Claude and tell Claude what you want to build in Remotion. And that was your step-by-step beginner's guide on how to get started using Remotion to build animations and videos using code with your favorite AI agents like Claude Code and Codex, Gemini, etc. My name is Mike Murphy, your AI handyman. Cheers.